Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Katie. So today I am going to do my makeup while I talk about mental health. And I think I'm going to talk about grief and people that have passed on. Because a lot of people deal with this and I think it should be talked about. So let's get into the tutorial. Alright, so I already have my eyebrows on because I'm trying something different this time. And I do my eyes first. And I'm going to use this Pretty Vulgar eyeshadow primer. And apply that to my lids real quick. Alright, so I am going to be using the Melt Cosmetics 420 palette. Just like this. And these are the shades. And since it's gonna be September 1st tomorrow, I think it's fall now. So I'm gonna be using kind of this green shade, kind of these shades right here. It's gonna be a pretty simple eye. It's not gonna be anything too crazy for me anyways. Alright, so let's start off with this story. I guess not really a story because it's real life. I don't know what to call it. Alright, so the first person I remember passing away whenever I was a kid was one of my friends that was in preschool with me. She had cancer. When I was 4 or 5-ish, around there, I met her in preschool. I didn't know she had cancer. I knew that she was sick, and they tried to explain it to me the best they could, but I didn't know, you know, little brain can't wrap around that. So let's go into it's dank, and I'm gonna use a fluffy blending brush. So anyways, back to the story. She was sick. She had cancer. The specific cancer she had, I don't know which one it was because I didn't ask. I was a little kid, but she had a type of brain cancer, and it was terminal. It was in the 90s. They didn't have a whole lot of research on that I'm aware of, and pretty much her parents, I believe, knew that she was going to pass. They didn't know when, so they tried to make her life as normal as possible, let her go to school, have friends, all that stuff. Alright, so we're going to use that dank shade and pack it into our crease using packing motions. So she had cancer, and we were pretty good friends. Like, if I was to remember, she was a pretty close friend when I was a little kid. But of course I was a little kid and everybody was my best friend. I went over her house. We would ride in her Barbie Jeep. We would go swimming together. We'd play in her room. So one of the greatest memories I remember is being at her house, and we were supposed to wash our hands, and we took all the soap and we were like splashing it up on the mirror and making a total mess. But we were having so much fun. We were just laughing and giggling about it, and I don't know how her parents felt about that, but I don't think they cared because they knew what was to come. So we finished preschool, and she went on to a different school because where I lived was a small town, and she lived in another small town, and she went to a different school for, I believe, kindergarten. And remember being in my kindergarten class, and it was after school, and my previous teacher from the year before that me and her were in her class the year before, came up to me because my mom, she didn't know how to explain to me that she had passed away, because the day before she passed away was her 6th birthday. Her birthday was December 14th, and she passed away December 15th. We had bought her a present. It was a Play-Doh, like, bakery set type of thing that's supposed to make, like, cakes and stuff. And, we were supposed to go to her birthday party, but unfortunately she got sick and was in the hospital. I believe she got pneumonia, and because I was young, you have to be, I believe, 16 years or older, or a sibling, to be able to visit anybody that's at the hospital or in intensive care unit. So I didn't know what was all going on. So my teacher comes up to me and she's like, I don't know the exact words I remember, but I remember her saying that, I'm not gonna say her name, but she had passed away. And then she, like, gave me a hug, and I'm like confused because I don't know what death is. I'm not correlating that little kids, young people pass away. So I'm like, okay, not really thinking anything of it. And yeah, all of that is pretty much a blur. Like, I didn't understand. So we go to her funeral, which was probably right before Christmas, and that's terrible to think that someone has to not only celebrate their their birthday and they're sick and they pass away the next day, and then it's right before Christmas. Like, that, I can't imagine. So I remember going to the funeral, and other friends of hers that were in a preschool class, they were there with their parents. Her parents are there, and there's a bunch of grown-ups. They're all talking and, like, talking about her and all this stuff. Dang it, I'm gonna cry. Funeral, and she looked like she was sleeping. And I think that was, like, the moment I was like, oh gosh, can't see. Well, thank goodness I haven't done mascara yet. Or my foundation. Okay. So, she was there laying in the casket, and she had, like, her hands like this, and she had, darn it, I can't even get through the screen one. I haven't even got to the next one. She had Barney, which was her favorite show and stuffed animal. And she also had this Dalmatian, because we used to watch 101 Dalmatians. And I bought my, we bought, well, me and my mom bought one for me and one for her as a gift, and she would always have it. And she had that with her in the casket too. I believe it was. It could be like, it was so long ago. Like, yeah. So, at the time I didn't understand what was going on, but as I got older I was like, oh, she doesn't, you don't come back. You don't come back. So I remember after the whole ceremony and everything, or not ceremony, but funeral, I hugged her dad. I believe I hugged her mom, and they offered for us to go to the burial. My mom didn't want to do it. She I don't know why she didn't want to go or what exactly, but she didn't want to. She didn't take me, so we didn't go. After that, life continued on, and I never really knew what happened with her parents or anything. If they, I heard that they got a divorce thereafter, and I never knew what happened to them. Throughout my life, I've always occasionally thought about her and been like, man, what she would have been like, would we have been still friends, like, you know? And you just, you know, it's incredibly sad. And even now, this was like when I was like five or six, I think, and I'm 29 now, so it's been 24 years or so, and it still like gets to me. Like when there's commercial for St. Jude's, and like kids with cancer and like little kids that pass away, or like it, like I'm like it does get to me. Like I'm like, dang it. I did eventually visit her gravesite, and I put flowers out there. I haven't been a very long time because it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, and but I do occasionally think of her, and yeah, it's incredibly sad and like difficult to think when you're a kid having that your friend passing away and you don't even understand what's happening. So the grief didn't really resolve until I got a little bit older to understand what had happened. Alright, I think that's enough blending. Let's use a little fluffy brush. This is the JH30. I'm just going to blend out the edges so it's not so intense. Okay, so the next death that happened was a year or two later. I'm still living in a small town in Kansas. My grandparents were next door neighbors to me. I think I was 7 or 8, maybe? No, I wasn't 8. I was 7, I think. My grandpa passed away. You expect elderly people to pass away. It's part of life. It does happen. Nobody lives forever. He passed away in his sleep, I believe. Which is like the best way to go, is like to pass away in your sleep. In my opinion. But, my mom had woken me up and they're like, hey, Grandpa passed away, do you want, or you need to go say goodbye to him, So I get up, and like the funeral home had waited for me to wake up, so I would go over there to say my goodbyes, which is incredibly nice of them to do for people, because I don't know many funeral home places. I guess maybe they do that. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna go into Chronic, which is this olive green, and we're gonna use this detailed diffused crease Sigma E33 brush. There you go. And we're going to put that in the crease a little bit lower than that dank one. Okay, so I went up. He passed away upstairs in his bed. And I remember going up there and then like seeing him still, not breathing. And them wanting me to say, goodbye, like give him a hug or whatever. And I was like, no, no, he's dead. Like, that's why I was like thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, like, no, that's weird, I can't, that's strange. And they were like, okay, that's fine. And then they took him away. And he was cremated, so there wasn't really a funeral. It was more of a memorial like type of thing. And there was like pictures of him and like all him and my grandma and his grandkids and my mom and everything. He was a pretty amazing grandpa. He had patience, but if you pushed him to the limit, he would just ignite. But it was different. It was a different thing, how it would happen, like how his funeral or memorial system was. He was cremated and then they did a memorial, and like people talked about him and like memories of him and stuff, unlike the one that I really first went to, because it was, I don't want to say it was like a celebration of his life, because I don't remember if that's really what it was, but it seemed a little bit like that. Okay. So. The next death that was the most difficult was my dad. There was, my grandmother my other grandma had passed away before that, but I wasn't around her that much, so it didn't really affect me as much. So I was 14 when he passed away. So I'm like a freshman in high school. I'm already having difficulties in middle school with depression and anxiety, and then boom, like I'm in freshman in high school. I don't fit in with anybody. I'm not popular. I'm pale. I'm weird. And I skipped school a lot when I was a freshman. I didn't like going to school. I didn't like the teachers. I didn't like a lot of the kids. I didn't fit in. Like I was weird and I just didn't want to be there. So I would like, it would get so bad that my stomach would hurt, and like I'd literally get sick from how much anxiety and worrying about everything, every little detail of going to school. So he passed away January 16th. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. Oh my gosh, January 14th, 2006. Wow, what is wrong with me? Don't even remember. He passed away in his sleep, but the prolific thing about when he passed away, he was going through a lot of medical issues. He used to be a welder and didn't probably use the adequate protection welders should be wearing. I'm pretty sure he had welder's lung. He drank a considerable amount. He did do drugs. I don't know how often. I know he did when he was younger. I don't know how much he did later on. And he did take prescription pain medication that was prescribed to him from his doctor, from the pain, from previous accidents and stuff. So it was a Sunday morning, and I'm sleeping. My mom comes in. She's crying, saying that he's dead. Like, he's not, you know. I'm like, no way, he's just sleeping, like, no. And we lived in a apartment during this time. We were extremely poor at this point, like, and so I go out of my room, and he would occasionally like fall asleep in the recliner and be watching like Battlestar Galactica or Star Trek. He watched sci-fi. He loved that stuff. Twilight Zone, that was his jam. But he was laying on the floor, like laying like on his stomach, like he'd been watching something and just fell asleep on his stomach. And I go in there, and I'm all like taken back a little bit. I'm like, he isn't breathing. He's not alive. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is not how this is supposed to go. You're not supposed to die right now. Like, this is not real. It was just so shocking when he passed. I was like, I'm 14, like, you can't just die. Because right before he passed away, only a few people know about this, he was getting a what's this called? An ice cream is ice cream cone with like the chocolate. It has caramel in the middle. It has like nuts on top of it. He was getting one of those ice cream cones out of the freezer to eat because he liked those. He liked to eat. He loved ice cream. He liked making banana splits, and he liked dessert. And he had gotten that. He said something to me, and I'm a 14-year-old little jerk, and he says something to me, and I'm like, oh, shut up. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I know better than you. And like, just total ass of myself. And that was the last word that I said to him. And it was a lot to do with like how he treated my mom and what, like, the circumstances that we were in that fueled me to say that. I was just a teenager and I was mad at everything, like, it was everybody else's fault, and yeah, it was just that. Okay, so my camera cut me off because this is going to be an incredibly long freaking video, obviously. Where was I? So he passed away, and I was like, there were so many things that I didn't get to say. There's so many things that I didn't ask him. There's a lot of things that weren't done and was left just a mess. I was a teenager. I was mad at everybody. And I didn't understand him, and he didn't understand, well, maybe he did understand me to a point. But he passed away. We didn't have a funeral for him. He was cremated. We didn't have money for a funeral. I don't even think we barely had enough money to have him cremated, to be honest. So my sister, she has his ashes. We need to go she still has his ashes. We need to like take them somewhere for a resting place, because to be honest, to me, like, your soul is not a part of, I don't know, like, sometimes I think that, but sometimes I'm like, no, I don't know. We need to take him to a resting place. Okay, we're going to use this dark brown shade. It says roll it, and we're going to pack that all over the lid. So he didn't get a burial. So I guess it was never properly like grieved about. Plus, with everything that had happened prior to him passing away and all that, it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. Okay, I'm gonna use this Morphe little flat shading brush and pack that roll it shade on my lid. Yeah, there were just so many things that were left unsaid, and I didn't say, and like I should have said, and I should have. I was so dumb and naive, and it frustrates me to think that. But now, as I've gotten older, I'm like, he knows, like, I was dumb and naive and young and didn't know anything about life, and how good I'm doing, and you know, I believe he sees it. And one of the reasons I think I know why I think he's around still every once in a while. I'll have like random songs play on the radio, or I'll be reading an Audible book and there'll be a quote and it's like, that's him, that's him. There's two songs that I correlate with him is Jim Croce, Time in a Bottle, and I shut my eye. The two songs that I correlate with is Pink Floyd, I Wish You Were Here. It always gets to me every dang time. And another thing that I believe he's still around is the last funeral that I went to was my grandpa's funeral. He had had a stroke and we had to go up to the family cemetery in Arkansas, and it was like my family, that side of the family is a little different. They're like, they do like kind of like a celebration of life. Like nobody cries and nobody grieves appropriately, I feel like. That's my opinion. Yeah, but I don't like that. Heck, I probably don't even grieve right either. But had a little ceremony for my grandpa, and my dad's sisters had bought my dad a plot, or not a plot, but bought him a tombstone up there. And after the ceremony was all over with my grandpa, I was just staring at it. I'm just like, he's not even here. He's not even buried here. Like, I don't get it. Whatever. That's a whole nother discussion. But it was like the most beautiful day. It was like in the Ozark area, and there was like the wind like blowing. It was not too hot and not too cold, and I was like, he's definitely here. Some days are good and some days are bad for me. Sometimes I'm like mad at him, and then other times I'm like, you're okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go into this Melt Cosmetics palette called Smoke Sessions. This was their first one that they came out with, and I think I'm gonna use I hope this doesn't mess it up. Granddaddy. It's like this brownish bronze shade. You probably can't even see it on my hand. It's super pretty. I think I'm gonna put that in my inner corner. Okay, so I'm gonna use this Morphe little tiny detailing brush. It's very tiny. And put that in my inner corner. Okay, so I'm gonna do the rest of my face off camera because otherwise it's gonna be a really long video and I really don't want it to be like that. And I'll be back to finish up the rest of it. Okay, so got my foundation on. I used the Catrice Light Correcting Serum in Candlelight. I'm going to try and list all my products that I use down below. I'm horrible at doing that because I kind of forget what I've used. And then I used the Catrice HD Liquid Coverage Foundation in light beige. The Fit Me Maybelline powder in 05 Fair. And I used Ace Beauty Bronzed in Paradise palette. And I used this shade and that shade to do my bronzer. And I used this Juvia's Place the Saharan Blush Volume 2 palette, and I mixed Zoba and Sola, I think that's how you pronounce it, this one and this one, to use my blush. Okay, let's get into the lower lash line. We're gonna go with Chronic, which is that olive dark green shade. Look kind of scary. Good. So the whole point of this video is that it's okay to grieve and to miss people, and there's no time limit on the stages of grieving. It's gonna be different for everybody. Some people will never get over certain things, and then others just keep going. There's some days I'm perfectly fine, and then there's other days I'm like, I think about it and I'm like, it really happened. Like, that he really isn't coming back, or she's not really coming back. We are going to use Monsieur Big Lancome lashes, or not lashes, but mascara. Put this on the lashes. And we're not using eyeliner. Oh my gosh. Scandalous. The funny thing is about like me, and when people die and everything, it was like I didn't understand, and ever like throughout my entire life it has evolved on it, and I particularly believe that they're always around, watching us and checking in on us occasionally. And I believe that they could be at more than one place at one time. It definitely had made me grow up a lot faster, and like kind of like death, when people pass away, I'm like, okay, it's gonna change a lot of things, and you know, I'm not the best at talking to people about family members passing away, or like how to console somebody, because some people react differently. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I need to do anything for you, just let me know. I tend to back away a little bit emotionally, because it can bring back some stuff, and I don't want to have it be about me. It's probably not the best coping mechanism. Yeah, the thing is, like, this mental health video tutorial that I just did isn't even touching everything else that has happened. Like, this is just the beginning of it. So it's gonna be, I don't know if I can keep it together for that. We'll have to see. Okay, let's find some lashes. Okay, I'm gonna use these House of Lashes and Sephora Aquamarine lash. Oh, they're upside down. This is what they look like. I'm gonna put those on my eyes. And I've grown to know and think, like, you know, I'll see them again. You know? And I used to be afraid of, like, dying and stuff. And, like, what's after death and everything. But now I'm like, okay. Like, I'm not afraid of it now, as I used to be, but I'm more, like, sad if something, like, if I do go, if I pass before my time or whatever, that how my kids are gonna do. And how my husband's gonna do if I passed. It's a difficult thing to ask and think about. But I do believe it should be talked about. I don't know why I have such a difficult time with this freaking eyelash. Like, okay, hold on. Lips. Oh gosh, what am I gonna do? We're gonna do a nude? I'm gonna do a nude, guys. I am going to use this Beauty Vault Cozy Kyra lip liner pencil. So it looks like, maybe, I don't know if you can see that. I've used this before, I believe. We're gonna put that on our lips. Ooh, I love this. I think I'm gonna use this Tartist lip lip paint in Birthday Suit. It's like a little mini one. Got a little sample of it. We'll use it. Alright. So, yeah. This is the finished look. I really, really like this. And I'm so proud of myself that I didn't cry it off because that would be devastating to me. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and this kind of mental health story time. I'll leave some links down below for like people to get a hold of somebody to talk to, or you can always leave me a comment and tell me how you're feeling, because I'll listen, I'll reply back. I hear you. So with that being said, I guess I will see you guys really soon. If you like this, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.